Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good night, everyone. My name is Adam Cortes Davis. My number is 2310731014. Today, I'm going to make a video about language tests, and I'm going to present the material that I have just read. Now, language tests, just by the meaning, language tests. So we test the language. Now, people would ask, right? So why and what is the usage of language tests? Now, there would be very excuses or very reasons to this. So the most common ones in schools would be for teachers. Now, teachers need to have language tests for students because they need to know the capability of each of their. They would need to know each capability of every student. So the teacher could see on average of how the level of students are in speaking a language, so that the teacher could justify or give could modify the material that the teacher would give. Now, that is the most common one. But then there would be for political reasons as well, which would be to control the number of immigrants going into countries. But the countries would be more like United States, England, more like the ones that speak English. Normally, it's those countries that do that. But yeah, and then so I'm gonna talk about how actually teachers do measurement of language in school. Now, there's actually three ways that teachers do it. It would be, the first one would be evaluation without measurement. So just by the name, so the teachers would evaluate the students in class, but there's no real measurement going on. There's no score, but the teacher would just evaluate how the student, for example, student A would talk to his friend, or how student A would talk to the teacher, or how he would interact with each other. Now, the teacher could evaluate and kind of give an estimate of how his level of language is, okay? Now, that's the first method. Now, the second method is measurement with no tests. Now, just by the name, so the teacher would measure. So there is a score going on. If you measure, of course, there would be a number from, for example, for schools, it would be, for example, from 0 to 10 or 0 to 100. Now, the teacher could give this measurement based off of everything that they have done in class, but no tests. So by homework maybe, or by projects, or just maybe everyday evaluation example. The teacher could give a score based off of that as well. Now, but those two aren't that accurate, because the third one would be tests. Now, tests would be the most accurate and the most fair out of them all, if the students did not cheat, of course, because because for a language test done by tests, it would be fair because the teachers would give a reading passage, for example, and right below the reading passage, there would be questions. Now, these questions would be the same to every student, and the reading passage would be the same to every student, and the questions would vary. So it wouldn't only be about the reading passage, so it would be vocabulary in the reading passage. It would be, for example, the analysis of the reading passage. It would be the reasoning, or it would be the meaning, or the plot, or whatever about the reading passage. Now, that is probably the most accurate and the most fair way for a teacher to indicate the student's level of language, if the students didn't cheat, of course. Because especially if it would be multiple choice as well. And yeah, but I just explained those three in school. So how about the people that are not involved in school, or not in school anymore? How do they know their capability of language without a teacher keeping an eye on them? So there's a thing called English. So there's English proficiency. Now, that is so basically that is exams that people would take, but that's only in English, not in every language, because most of the times people need these exams to know or reflect about their score or acknowledge their score or their level of English for many reasons, for very reasons. So they would want to know their score or their level of English because probably they would want to become a student abroad. Most of the time, yeah, abroad, or they would want to work abroad that requires a minimal score or a level of English, and then, or become an immigrant abroad as well. Most of the factors are that. And then, like, there are actually 15 types of different exams you could take to acknowledge or know your level of English. Now, I'm just going to talk about two, the most common and what most countries use. So, the first one would be IELTS. Now, IELTS is very popular. Probably a lot of people watching have heard about IELTS. Now, in IELTS, there are 4 different sections. It would be speaking, reading, writing, and listening. Now, there would be different levels to, so yeah, there's different sections, and then the score varies from 1 to 10, and the minimum requirement or the passing grade would normally be 6.5 to 7.5 in average. And bear in mind, it might be different in each country or in each university or whatever. Now, the fee in the US normally for IELTS would be $250 average. And then the second most popular test would be TOEFL. Now, TOEFL, same as IELTS, has four different types of tests, starting from reading, writing, listening, and speaking. But TOEFL has 2 different types of tests. There's TOEFL IBT and TOEFL paper test. IBT means you take it online using computer, and paper test means paper test. You take it offline, you go to the place, you write everything down. Now, the passing grade or the score for IBT ranges from 0 to 120, and for the paper test, it would range from 310 to 667. But for TOEFL, there is actually no minimum score or passing grade. It just depends on, for example, if you want to go to college in, let's say, Cambridge. Now, they would probably ask for something like 650 or something like that. Now, that would be the minimal passing grade. But in general, there's no really exact passing grade for TOEFL. And the average fee for a TOEFL exam would cost between $235 in the US. Now, that's it for my video, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Bye-bye.